Hello and welcome back to Everything Fear, your one-stop shop for all things horror. I'm Kit Tinsley. I'm a horror author, film academic and general horror geek. Well, it's been a while. I've taken a little time off over the summer to spend some time with my kids, but we're back now and I've got lots of new content coming for you in the coming weeks. Today we're going to start with a review of the new CANDYMAN movie.
Say his name.
Bernard Rose's 1992 movie CANDYMAN, based on the novella The Forbidden by Clive Barker, is in my opinion the greatest horror movie of the 1990s, and it's one of my all-time top 5 favourite horror movies. It's a fantastic film, a movie whose monster is remembered in the pantheon of great slasher killers, but really is a much more interesting character, sharing the same sort of articulate gravitas and melancholy as Barker's other most famous film creation, Pinhead from Hellraiser. A large part of the character's power comes from Tony Todd's performance of the character. Todd is an imposing figure with this amazing baritone voice that seems to penetrate your soul. However, the movie also works because of Rose's clever adaptation of the source material and his exquisite direction. He had a real commitment to realism, which is clearly demonstrated in his decision to use the real gang-controlled Cabrini Green to film it, and his insistence on hypnotising lead actress Virginia Madsen to give her a really distant, mesmerised look in some of the scenes. On top of that, it's a really powerful film that deals with some really big ideas about race, class, sexism, gentrification, and then it wraps it all up in this movie that, when you try and think back on it, it's like trying to think back on some half-remembered nightmare. It's that powerful. So suffice to say, when the news broke way back in 2018 that Jordan Peele was producing what was initially announced as a remake, but soon clarified as a spiritual sequel to CANDYMAN, I was both excited and worried. Excited because I'm a fan of Peele's work. He's a confident filmmaker within the horror genre, and his films have often tread similar ground to the original CANDYMAN. But I was worried, as this is such a favourite film of mine. I was so scared that it was going to be another terrible reboot. In the new CANDYMAN, we follow Anthony McCoy, played by Yahya Abdul-Mateen, who fans of the DCEU will recognise as Manta from the Aquaman movie. Anthony is an artist who had some early success, but is now struggling to find inspiration for his work. He stumbles upon the legend of CANDYMAN and feels drawn to interpret it in his work. From this point on, Anthony's life, mind and body begin to spiral out of control, as it would seem the legends are true. What did I like about this movie? Nia Da Costa's direction in this movie is absolutely brilliant. Her way of framing things and her use of slow zooms and unusual angles really create a sense of dread and unease that just oozes from the screen. She has this knack of making the mundane and everyday seem slightly unrecognisable and off-kilter. In many ways, I would compare it to the way that Kubrick shot The Shining. She doesn't rely on jump scares at all, really, in this movie. Instead, she relies on dead space on the screen and reflections, and she puts things in there that it actually takes a while for you to notice are there, and that's where the fear comes from. Something is there and you don't notice it at first, but when you do, it's like, oh my god. This really is a much more unsettling technique than a jump scare. The acting is fantastic throughout this movie, especially from Mateen, whose descent into madness and nightmare is really viscerally raw and powerful and believable. The locations in this movie are great, once again filming on the real Cabrini Green, although of course the tower blocks are long gone. Chicago is very much a character within this movie, and one that you are never sure if you can trust. Now we're going to get into some slight spoilers. The story for this film is great, and taps into the urban legend themes of the original Candyman movie and expands on the mythology, making Candyman a recurring figure who extends far beyond Tony Todd's Daniel Robitaille of the original, though it does state that he was the first. Instead, making a series of CANDYMAN, who are all these tragic figures who have been brutalised by white people. And here, of course, is where the film is going to get hate from certain groups of people. You know, those internet vocal groups who are always, oh, don't bring politics into horror. Well, if you missed the politics of race relations, urban decay, and gentrification in the original Candyman, you clearly weren't watching it very closely. Yes, perhaps Candyman 2021 does bring these themes slightly more to the forefront, especially as there are scenes where characters discuss these issues. And Da Costa doesn't pull any punches. The origin stories of the various Candymen, which are based on real events and real people, are really tragic and powerful. However, let's face it, nearly 20 years have passed since the original Candyman, and these problems in society are still a problem within society. So perhaps it's time that subtlety did go out of the window, and perhaps it is time to smack people around the face with these issues. Perhaps it's time to make things change. And I strongly recommend that you sit around and watch the entire end credit sequence, which is a shadow puppet show detailing the origins of each of these Candymen. And it is so powerful, set to the original Candyman theme by Philip Glass. It's just a work of art in its own, just that end credit sequence. The way the film links to the original movie is great, but it also expands on the mythology. It respects the original, but wants to do its own thing as well. If you enjoy this video, if you could please subscribe, give us a like, and maybe tickle that bell icon to be notified when we upload future content, that would be great, thank you. What didn't I like? My one complaint really is that at 90 minutes, the movie was a little too short. I could have done with another 20 to 30 minutes of this film. I was enjoying it that much. And also, with its slow, dread-filled build-up, the ending seems perhaps a little rushed, and there are certain character developments and plot points that could have done with perhaps just a little bit more explanation. If it had been a little longer, it would have been an utter masterpiece. So, in conclusion, Candyman 2021 is a beautifully and unnervingly shot movie, with great performances and a strong story that respects the original but also expands on it. It's also a very powerful film with a really important message. With a little longer runtime, it could have been perfect, though never quite reaching the level of brilliance that the original attained. This is a worthy successor to the original Candyman movie, and I highly recommend that everyone go and watch it. Well, thank you very much, and until next time, stay scared and stay tuned.